Welcome to another episode of the Women's Hockey Report, part of the Locked On NHL channel. Erica L. Ayala, one of your co-hosts here. So excited to be joined by Elle Hartje of the New York Sirens. Elle, how you doing?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm great. The sun is shining today. It feels like spring, so perfect day for this.
There's so many things that I would love to chat about when it comes to you, your path, some of what's happening in the PWHL. But first, I just like to kind of do like a little bit of a vibe check and get to know a little bit about you by asking a pretty open-ended question. I call it my brown sugar question because it comes from a movie called Brown Sugar. But hey, Elle, tell us, when did you fall in love with hockey?
Oh, that's like an interesting one because I feel like it was before I knew I did, if that makes sense. My dad was a professional hockey player, and so he put all of us in skates before we even remembered doing it. But from what I hear, I took to it immediately versus my older brother who used to cry and like throw a fit when they would bring him to practice. I loved it right away. So I would say immediately. And I think that love for the game shows in my decision to continue to play hockey throughout my life because I played a lot of sports and I played hockey, soccer, and tennis like very competitively at the same level for a long time. And then obviously you do eventually get to a point where you have to drop one. You can't, there's literally not enough time in the day to do all of that. And so tennis was the first to go. I had realized I was a team sport girly through and through. So then I was travel soccer, travel hockey all through high school. And then I even was doing recruiting visits for soccer and for hockey. So I toured different schools for soccer, different schools for hockey. I was touring some schools thinking of playing both. And ultimately, my passion for hockey, I think I always knew it, but it was kind of just keeping the door open. And then, you know, I knew that hockey is what I wanted to do. And I wanted to make sure that all of my focus was on hockey. So I kind of dropped the idea of doing dual sports in college too. Like I really wanted to focus on hockey.
Wow. So I'm assuming you were like a little bit better than okay at soccer. Like if you were going on these recruiting trips, what is it that you liked about soccer before we talk a little bit more about your hockey journey?
Yeah, I was pretty good at it. And I think that that is a big reason why I wasn't willing to maybe make the decision even when I knew that hockey was what I wanted to do. But when you're really good at something, you're like, you know what, maybe this is what I should be doing. Um, but what did I love about soccer? I think it's very similar to hockey in that I loved my teammates. I loved competing in a team setting. Um, I was a center mid, so I really loved the aspect of sort of quarterbacking my team and being involved in all aspects of play. And now I'm a left wing, but at the time I was a center, so that was like a pretty natural comparison in the two sports. So yeah, I loved everything about soccer, but being on the ice and hockey practice, I think what ultimately made the decision for me was like I had so much fun at hockey practices because games, of course, they're fun, like soccer games and hockey games. That's what you live for. That's why you're practicing. But when I realized, I'm like, wait, we're getting bag skated, and I like love life, and I'm sitting in the locker room with my friends until midnight. Like this is definitely my passion.
Yeah, that's when you knew, yeah, I'm built a little different. Yeah. I love that. I want to go back to something that you mentioned. I mean, you are among a few players, several players, whether it's in the PWHL or just in women's hockey overall, that have a family member that has played professionally at some level. But when it's a parent, I always wonder, like, because for me growing up, my mom she was not a professional hockey player, but she was a lawyer. And like I knew that, but like also I realized that I really didn't know what that meant growing up. I was like, like you say, what does your parent do? And you're like, this is what they do. So like when did you really understand what it meant that you had a parent that played professional sports?
Yeah. Well, let me shout out my mom too. She's also a lawyer. So that
Hey, there you go.
that is my other passion. I was a poli-sci major at Yale and
Ooh.
might even consider law school in the future. I just love law and I loved growing up around my mom. She's my role model. So I did want to give her a shout out.
Yes,
But
love that.
to answer your question about my dad, I actually think took longer than I would have thought for me to realize how cool he really was. Because when you're growing up, he's just your dad. And when I was growing up, he was done playing. So I didn't grow up with him in those spaces. He was just my dad and he was my coach. So I think it really took, and he's really humble, so he doesn't talk about himself. So there's like all of those things coming into play. So it took me, he wrote a book and I ended up reading his book in middle school. And I kind of was just like, whoa, like you're awesome. Um, so then we started having conversations about his playing time, his experiences. And I think just the older you get, the more you can come to appreciate the things that your parents did. The less there's sort of these enigmas that you don't understand what they're doing. They're just your mom and dad, and the more you can really understand like the nuances of where they came from and what they've done.
Okay, let's talk about hockey. You end up going to Yale. I mean, what was it about that program that really stood out to you? Not only because you knew you were going to go hockey, not soccer, but you're going to spend time with a storied program. You know it's going to be rigorous on the ice as well as academically. What made that the good fit for you?
Yeah, I think this is there's a couple parts to my answer here. Going on my recruiting trips, I never thought that sports and athletics would continue post college. So that was definitely a part of my decision. Um, this league is fairly new. There was professional women's hockey, but it wasn't livable at the time. And so, yeah, I thought collegiate athletics was going to be the end for me. And so I really was thinking about like, okay, where can hockey bring me now that it can set me up for later. So I was equally as focused on the athletic portion as I was on the academic portion. And that's a testament to my upbringing, and my parents met at Harvard. So they understood the importance of academic and athletic balance. And so did I. And so that was one of the factors that went into my decision for college. And as I mentioned, they both went to Harvard. And so growing up, I always thought I would go there. But they were very encouraging and supportive of me going on all of my visits before I made that type of decision, because they understand how life changing college can be, and they loved their college experience, but they understand that it's different for everybody and everyone has different needs. So I'm really appreciative that they encouraged me to go on all of my visits and really keep an open mind. And I visited Yale. Obviously, the academics speak for themselves. And once I stepped foot on campus, it's gorgeous. I really could envision myself being there. And the other factor was I really wanted to go somewhere where I could make an impact on the ice right away. Um, and I had a great conversation with the coaches, who then I ended up having different coaches who I came in with them. So when I graduated, that was like their first full class graduating, and just had the best relationship with them. And it was a really collaborative experience. But yeah, I wanted the academics. I loved the campus. I heard great things about it from the team when I went on my visits. And then, yeah, I wanted to go somewhere where I could make an impact and like really have a lasting legacy on the program.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, those are all important things and super hard to make those choices at what, in hindsight is a pretty young age. But I mean, what were some of your favorite memories that you were able to make, whether it's on the ice or off the ice?
Yeah, I mean, the one on the ice that I go to, it's getting old at this point, but we made the Frozen Four. We beat Colgate in overtime to do so at Colgate after losing to them the week before in the ECAC finals in overtime. So that was just the perfect story. The hockey gods really came together to like it doesn't seem real. It seems like a movie story, like a script. Um and that was just definitely the most exciting game and time in hockey that I've ever had. I remember we had quite the celebration on Sunday after we got back to New Haven. Uh, and yeah, I mean, we still talk about it to this day. Like we bring up that game and then the next day all the time. So that is one of my peaks of college. And then I just loved Yale socially as well. Uh, I would say one of my favorite things about it is that you're able to have an active social life. That was also very important to me. I wanted to get out of Yale more connections. Like I love my team, but I just feel like there are so many amazing, inspiring people who go to that school. And I wanted to make sure that I was branching out into other areas. And I loved that I was able to do that there. Like obviously I was very committed and focused on my hockey, but there was time in the day to make sure I was focusing on other things. So all of my friends that I ended up leaving with are probably the best thing that came out of it.
And I mean, what was that experience like? You grew up in Michigan, New Haven, Connecticut can get pretty cold. Although I don't know, New England winters or Northeast winters aren't what they used to be. But I wonder what were some of the similarities and the differences just from being back home and then going to Yale and being in New Haven.
Yeah, well, weather-wise, it snows a lot more in Michigan. So I had to buy rain boots and a rain jacket because the precipitation is always rain. Like it's never snow. That was one of my biggest qualms. It was very frustrating. And like walking to class in the soaking rain is not what you want to do on a Monday. So weather-wise, there was that, and it gets dark earlier, which Ingles Rink is beautiful, but it has windows. And so when you would be on the ice at 4:30 and it's pitch black outside, like that wasn't my favorite. That wasn't awesome. In the middle of winter, just leaving practice and it's only 6 and it seems like it's midnight. So those were two of the things that weren't my favorite weather-wise. But I do love the East Coast, and falls in New Haven are beautiful.
Yeah.
Spring is beautiful. I don't know why I only specified fall, but yeah, and there's 4 seasons. So other than the light issue and the rain issue, it's very similar, and I got the 4 seasons, and I sort of had the same feel as I did in Michigan. So
If you're like me, your mornings have to start with a good cup of coffee, but I got tired of settling for the basic grocery store pods that just weren't cutting it. And that's why I turned to Trade. And let me tell you, their coffee is next level. Trade is the #1 specialty coffee marketplace in the US. It brings you fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Their experts have taste tested thousands of coffees. They curated over 450 amazing roasts. And whether you're new to coffee or know exactly what you like, they can handpick the perfect match for you. I found a local Philadelphia roaster, Reanimator, that I had always wanted to try. And my first bag of theirs was a game changer. It had such a smooth flavor, and I could actually taste the difference from those pods. The subscription makes it so easy as well. There's no more last minute grocery store runs or settling for what's ever on the shelf. So right now, Trade is exclusively offering listeners 40% off your first order at drinktrade.com/lockedonnhl. That's drinktrade.com/lockedonnhl for 40% off your first order. Drinktrade.com/lockedonnhl. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when that first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who might cut down that net. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. There's no waiting around. So visit fanduel.com and get in on all the college hoops action all tournament long.
Yeah. Well, we were able to keep you on the East Coast for your professional career. And you alluded to this when you were thinking about going to college, even at a time while you were at Yale. I mean, I think it's fair to say that women's hockey's been through some things,
thanks.
We've seen a lot. But every step has been growth, and the PWHL, of course, included. So, what made you confident to be able to, or even maybe kind of changed your perspective on what was going to come after Yale?
Yeah, I think I really started to believe that I might actually pursue hockey after college my junior year. So pretty late in the game. Um, One of my really good friends, Claire Dalton, she plays for Montreal, and she was a class ahead of me. So when she was a senior, her plan was to continue to play, and this was before the league was even announced. And I just saw, like, I talked to her a lot about it, and we were like, why rush our lives when this is our passion and this is something we love to do? So that was one of the things. And then the other thing is my family was really supportive. They were like, you obviously aren't done playing. Like, you still have so much love for the game. You're so committed to getting better, and you still have more to give. And my dad, like I said, was a professional athlete. My mom was there to support him along the way, and she had her own ambitions. And they were like, don't let sort of, not stereotypes, I can't think of the right word, but don't let what you think life is supposed to be get in the way of your path. And so that was sort of a conversation we had. And I'm so happy that we did and that they were supportive of me pursuing this, because I think if they were like, nope, you gotta get a finance job in New York City, and they weren't supportive, then I would have second guessed and maybe not gone all in on this. But that was instrumental in me deciding to keep playing.
Yeah, I mean, we're just talking for the first time, but I get the sense from how you speak about your family, your parents in particular, that there was this fostering of you as like a whole person, and that they trusted you and guided you to figure out what that meant for you. That just happens to be hockey in your sense, but you know, how would you just characterize what it is like to have a family that will be supportive and allow you to explore things that like kind of set your soul on fire?
Yeah. I mean, I am so lucky to have the family that I do, and I feel like that's why I never shut up about them. I understand that people don't have the same experiences, but I have 3 siblings as well, and we're all very close. And they're athletes as too. And so I just feel like our parents really understand us and understand what drives us. And we're very influential in helping me make my decisions. Like I really trusted them and saw, this is going back to the question about like, oh, when did you realize how cool your dad was? Once I realized what they did with their lives and how awesome they were, I really trusted them to help guide me. And then same with my siblings. We talk all the time, and my sister is like the biggest fan of the Sirens now, and helps me pick out my outfits for games. And my brothers watch every game. And so it's just a very supportive family environment. And this is not an easy profession to do on an island.
Yeah.
So really do owe it all to them.
That's beautiful. I love it. Where do you fall in the order?
I have an older brother, older sister, younger brother. So I'm third.
Okay. Got you. All right.
Mhm.
Very cool. Very cool. I love it. All right. Let's get into though. I mean, you mentioned your sister. You're fit for the draft. It's kind of, you know, become a part of, you know, how people know you and identify you. But I want to use that as a transition because you actually are one of the players on this takeover tour that's going to have a chance to play in a city as a pro athlete in this league, in a city that you call home and that has meant so much to you as a person, and I'm assuming also as a hockey player. You'll be taking on Minnesota. I mean, how many folks are pulling up? Let me know who's coming through.
Oh my gosh. I felt like I was a logistics specialist. Like I'm getting texted left and right, like, hey, can you get us tickets? Like we want to sit close to the glass, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like reaching out to teammates who might not have family coming. I'm like, can I have your tickets? I was really, really working hard getting those comp tickets in. So I'm really excited. I mean, I've gotten like such an outpouring of support for this upcoming game. I know a lot of like my youth organizations that I was involved in, and I played for a boys team my whole life, and I like all of the parents from that team are going to come, and my family and my trainers from home, and just, yeah, it's going to be big squad rolling out on Sunday.
I love that. That's awesome. That's super exciting. I mean, I've read in interviews that you've done before, you know, that you, among many other people, are hoping that the league expands. Michigan seems to be on the radar.
I know this is the second year in a row, so it's got to mean something.
I'm saying. Today's episode of the Women's Hockey Report brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Yeah, that's me more often than I like to admit. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And if you are a business owner like me, then wanting to keep tabs on your cash flow and your income, your expenses is super important. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long term goals. And you'll find things you never knew about your spending habits. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code Locked On NHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code Locked On NHL, for half off your first year. But there is someone who I had the honor of covering for many years, Madison Packer, who also from Michigan, and told me an awesome story about how she got her jersey number. And so now it's something that I just love asking people. So, Elle, is there a story behind your jersey number?
No, it's so cliche. It's our family's lucky number. My dad was 13 growing up. It all comes back to him, huh? And I just like looked up to my brother and I looked up to my sister, and they were 13, and they had looked up to my dad who was 13. So then I was 13. And then I got away from 13 for a little bit, actually, because I ended up playing with my sister, both in soccer and in hockey in high school. And so I ended up picking number 4 because my older brother had been number 4. And then that kind of became part of my identity, being number 4. But then when I came to the Sirens, 13 was available, and I was like, this would be so cool to be playing professional hockey and like go back to my roots and my family's number and be 13 again. So it's really awesome to be repping it.
There you go. I love it. Let's talk a little bit about this Sirens game. We mentioned, of course, the Takeover tour. It will be stopping in your hometown. This is a team that I think, like a lot of teams, has been trying to figure out what their stride is. The standings have been so tight for so long. What do you like about what you've seen from the team, and what are the areas that you think the Sirens really want to just refine and focus on as the regular season starts to wind down?
Yeah. Well, I would say, for one thing, win or lose, the attitudes that we have showing up at the rink are great. Everyone shows up and wants to get better and wants to have a positive attitude and is happy to be there. And I think that everyone has experienced being on teams where it's really a drag to be at the rink. And, when you're losing some games, like, it really can turn that way quickly. And I think our team has really rallied together to be like, no, we still got this. And that comes from our leadership group and it trickles all the way down. And so you wouldn't know by showing up at the rink any struggles that our team might be going through. Like, we're really a tight-knit unit. And I think that's why we're confident that we're going to get the wins and outcomes we want to get. And then X's and O's wise, we love our PK. And so whenever we get a penalty, we're pretty confident that we're going to be able to kill it off. Our power play has been putting up numbers for us recently, which has been great and something that we had been focusing on in practice. And then our games are looking good. Like, sometimes you can look at the stat sheet and maybe think one thing, but when you're watching the games live, we really are feeling confident with our game and good about it. And so that's why there's a little bit of disconnect, and it's a little frustrating when the outside world might see something else. But like I said, we're kind of just trying to stay insular and stay with the program because we really trust our coach, we trust our leadership, and we trust ourselves. And so we're working hard in practice. We're working on putting in those final finishes around the net, really tightening up our defensive zone, protecting our goalies, going for the block shots. But practice has been looking good this week.
I heard an interview that you did, and I do want to come back to fashion and fits, especially with the Takeover tour coming up. But you mentioned in an interview that a part of the reason that you worked with your sister to really curate a look that was going to work for you, represent who you are, is because you felt there was so much unknown that you were coming into being a rookie in a professional hockey league. And so I just want to follow up with you. I mean, what are your takeaways as of this moment? Because I'm sure they'll change and they're ever changing. But what are your takeaways from being a professional athlete? What are some things that maybe you didn't anticipate that now you're experiencing?
Yeah, I think it's a lot like freshman year of college, where you're going into something unknown and you really don't know what you're going to get. It feels a lot like that, not in that it's having the same experience, but it's just the same sort of unknown and figuring it out as you go.
Yeah.
And I live with 2 other rookies, which has been great because we're kind of in it together and able to be there for each other. But we're having a ball. Obviously, there are trials and tribulations with everything, and especially when you're at a program for 4 to 5 years, like we were in college, you just get really comfortable being there. And so we knew we were going to step into some uncomfortable zones and things that we're not used to. And I think we've been navigating those together and dealing with it. And I think one of the things that I've talked about before is just the scheduling is very different. College is very routinized. You know what you're going to get. This, you could have a game Monday, Tuesday, and then not a game for another week. Or you could play Monday, Wednesday, Friday in 3 different cities. And then you might have an off day, Saturday, Sunday, and then play another game. It's just like very sporadic. And I think an important thing for athletes is their routine and making sure that they're prepared the same way for everything. And so that's been something that I've gotten a lot better at as this year has progressed, is just making sure that no matter the circumstances, I'm doing the same mental preparations and physical preparations as best I can in those areas. And then on the ice, I mean, anybody who watches the game, it's very fast. The pace of play is night and day from college even, and then the physicality as well. And there's only 6 teams, and it's the best talent in the world. So you're getting all of that condensed on 6 teams. And so obviously hockey is going to be next level high caliber. And so, yeah, that's just another thing that you have to adjust to. And I think that I've really gotten my feet under me now 2/3 of the way through the season. I'm really feeling great and starting to feel like less of a rookie a little bit, you know?
All right, almost through it, almost through it. You mentioned something about there being 6 teams and the schedule. I mean, it's definitely a professional league schedule with regard to, sometimes it's not consistent. It's not the same. I do wonder though, if things get a little spicy on the ice for you, at least, how long is the snapback before you can like go back to that team or maybe even that individual and be like, oh, like we're good, it's fine, like does it take a minute,
Yeah.
is it immediate?
So here's the thing. I am like a hyper competitive person, and I think that sometimes the way I'm reflected on the ice is just not who I am. Like, things get heated. Like, I'm a very nice, sweet girl, but like we're on the ice, we're competitors, and you get mad. And so I understand that from the other point of view. But that doesn't make me any less mad about it in the moment. So when you get into it with friends, my snapback is pretty immediate. I'm like, oh, like it's okay. I get it. But when I don't know the person, my snapback takes a little longer because I'm like, oh, like that's who they are as a person. And then I have to be like, okay, I'll chill out. Like it's not that deep.
I mean, I appreciate the honesty. I can relate. I can relate as a very, very former and very washed former athlete. Yeah, it takes a minute. It takes a minute. I think that's real. I think that's real.
Yeah,
I love it.
I do think there are grudges that are held.
That is
Especially
also
when you're
very
playing
real.
the same teams over and over. If there are repeat offenders, I do think some grudges are held.
I wanted to come back to Detroit. We saw the Boston Fleet. They leaned into the whole Seattle of it all and kind of came in with fisherman outfits. I want to know, is there a team fit happening, or are you and sis just going to go your own way?
Listen, I've had like an outfit that I've wanted to wear to this game since this game was announced. Ooh. So I will be wearing that outfit.
Ooh. Okay. All right. It's already picked out. I love it. Yeah. I love it. Cannot wait to see it. For fans that are coming through and maybe are not as familiar with the Detroit area, is there a spot that you recommend for food? I learn places through food and like independent bookstores, but that's a whole nother vibe. But is there a spot where you're like, hey, if you're in town, got to check it out?
I gotta pick one.
Well, I mean, okay. list them all, girl.
If you're looking for Detroit style pizza, because that's like something people are like, oh, what's Detroit style pizza? Buddy's is the place to go.
All right.
So that's on the pizza vibe. If you're looking for something very lesser known, but very Detroit like made, it would be a Coney Island. I grew up on Coney Islands. Oh. They are like these diners that have chili dogs and Greek salads. They're just like my favorite restaurants. And then there's American Coney Island and National Coney Island downtown, which is like they're right next to each other, and they both claim that they made the first Coney dog, and it's like this rivalry. So it's really fun to go try both of their Coney dogs. So that's a fun activity food wise. And then I love Tin Roof. They have bar food, but it's more for the vibes. There's like live music on the first floor. There's like a rooftop that looks over at Comerica Park. So that's another great spot if you're just wanting like a chill vibe.
I love it. I love it. Coney Island. I mean, because I'm from New York, so I think Coney Island. I'm thinking Brooklyn, which
not a
is
location.
yeah, like it's funny. I live in Oklahoma now, and they have Coney Island dogs here too. I don't know if I trust it. Yeah, I don't know. Everyone loves Coney Island. I gotta look into that more. I don't know, but anyway, I love it. Okay, we'll close out with this. How will you define success for yourself at the end of your rookie year?
That's a tough question. I think that in the sport of hockey, a lot of people define success on the stats and the numbers and this and that. But it's been really important for me to remember that you can only define success based on the things that you can control. So for me, even right now, the way that I'm able to understand that I'm successful and excelling is that I can see that my coaches and my teammates trust me and have been trusting me over the course of the year more and more. And that's shown in my ice time and the situations that I've been put on the ice for. And so I think that's a big indicator is what do your teammates and what does your staff think about you? And do they still have that trust in you? Are they putting you in situations that you want to be in? So yeah. And then, yeah, I think just also outside of the hockey aspect of it, I really want to be someone who people like to be around at the rink. And so it's really important to me to form those relationships. So just making sure that going into the summer, I keep in touch with my teammates and keep those relationships going into next year.
Well, I can't speak about on the ice, but certainly for a podcast host, you have been a delight to get to know and to talk with. I love your vibes, love your energy. Cannot wait to see the fit. I'm super excited for that. Yes. But enjoy home, enjoy family and friends. It sounds like it's going to be a good time.
Yes, it's going to be. There's going to be a lot going on. It's a packed itinerary for sure, but I'm very excited. And I think that there's some fun things in the works with the Tigers, the Pistons, the Lions. So I'm like a kid in a candy shop right now. Like it's going to be so
my
we have
goodness.
to our game tomorrow, but then after that, kid in a candy shop.
I freaking love that for you. Well, best of luck the rest of the way. And I think we're just going to have you back on the Women's Hockey Report sometime soon.
I would love to be back.
Well, Elle Hartje, thank you so much. Best of luck again to you and the New York Sirens. And hey, for all of you listeners and viewers, thanks again for tuning in to the Women's Hockey Report, and we'll see you next Saturday.